Using word dies to create large words to add to your projects is a really fun way to make bold sentiments for your cards. I just got a new word die set and I've been playing around with it. I came up with so many different ways to use it that I wanted to make up some samples and share them with you today. I have 10 card samples plus bonus ideas for ways to use them in even more ways and some tips and tricks I'll share at the end for a little bit easier use. Let's take a look at them. The die set I'm using in all of today's projects is called Amazing Thanks. You can see it right here. It includes the words "you are amazing" and "thanks." And it includes the actual word as well as a shadow piece that can go behind it. So here you can see what the die cuts look like after they're cut out. And let me pull in my cards. I had so much fun using this. I will show this. It actually comes as a bundle with this amazing silhouette stamp set, which I think is really unique. So let's just get started. Like I said, I have 10 different ideas for ways to use these. I have 10 different cards and some tips to share at the end. So my first idea for using these is pretty basic. It's just to use the die cuts as intended. So I stamped this background. If you're interested in any of the products I used on these cards, I will have links in the video description below. You can also go to my website and get more information on these cards. I want to add embellishments, which I haven't done yet. So if you go to my website, you'll be able to see these completely finished with the embellishments. So use the words as they are intended. See if you can see this specialty paper. That is a way just to make them stand out. This is some rose gold specialty metallic paper that I think is amazingly pretty. So I use that on my first card. So that's pretty basic. Idea number 2 is to layer those words. So use the narrow die cut over that shadow piece. But here's a bonus idea on this card, which is to put it over a frame. And you can either do just a cutout and attach the word on the edges, or for this one, I decided, since I didn't have much area to adhere to on the actual card, I put a piece of acetate window sheet behind it. So that's a really fun way to lay it over a frame. So the fourth way that I came up with to use them is to do some blending. Use my blending brushes around the die cuts. So this was the bold one. Now I chose not to lay the small pieces back in the little cutout areas because that would have been a lot of work, I think. So I just blended over the top and I really like how it came out. I love this rainbow here, but to blend around it with your blending brushes. Now I played around with blending quite a bit, so some of my other ideas are with the blending brushes as well. So my fifth idea is to use the blending brushes. I keep wanting to say sponge, same idea, to blend inside your negative pieces. So don't forget about these negative pieces. On my other one, I blended around the thicker cutout, this one. And then on this one, I blended inside of this particular one. This is the narrower one, but I thought that turned out really neat with the color variation. And even though, you know, the cutouts aren't there, you can obviously still tell it says thanks. And I think it adds just kind of a neat effect to it. So that was my fifth idea. Idea number 6 is to layer the sponging. So on this one, I sponged inside of the larger negative and also inside. I sponged inside both of these. So I played around a lot with sponging. I'm trying to remember what I did on this one. So I sponged inside, blended with my blending brushes, blended inside of this piece with some darker ink, and then I could see exactly where that was, and I laid this piece on around and blended around it. Now, if you happen to not be familiar with the blending brushes, I'll show you. Here is one of mine, and you just pick up a little bit of ink and start swirling onto your project. I can link you to a video here with a lot of information on blending brushes if you would like to learn more about them. Next is to layer the sponging with the die cut. So on this one, I sponged that background, the lighter blue, and then I added a die cut on top. And I really like that look. I think this is probably my favorite of the layering with the sponging. I think the sponging looks really neat, but I like this with the die cut on top. Idea number 8 is to cut these word dies or die cuts out of paper with foam adhesive sheets on the back. So can you see that this is really three-dimensional? It's popped out quite a bit from my card. So how you do that is take some foam adhesive sheets. This is basically the same thickness or a little bit thicker than foam dimensional pop-ups that you can use to pop up pieces on your cards. So what you do is cut out a piece that's about the size of your die cut, and so I'll grab one of my dies right here. So for this piece, I would cut a strip. Then there is paper backing on both sides of this that you can remove, and underneath is adhesive. So I would remove the top piece of that, cover it with a piece of paper, just like you would normally, and then put that under your die cut, okay? So you're gonna have the adhesive sheet with a piece of paper on top. You run this through your machine. It goes through really easily, more easily than you might expect. And then you have one of these really cool pop-ups. Now, I have more information on quite a few of these things. If you wanna use that link to go to my website, you'll find links to information about the foam adhesive sheets, the blending brushes, and a few other things. Idea number 9, and I thought this was really fun. I really like how this one turned out, is to die cut through the front of your card. So I use that larger shadow die to cut a hole in the front. I decided to emboss it, but leave it plain. I thought that turned out nice. And then with it closed, I put adhesive on the back of the narrower die cut and laid it right there into the correct spot. Idea number 10. We love to save things. We love to rescue things, find ways to use scraps. So 10 is to use your trash. So I have 2 different cards here that I have used the waste pieces from some of my other projects. So this was my piece I used to blend this card. So then I had this left over, and I decided to use it just on a really clean and simple card all by itself. And then another way to use the trash, I had the die cut from this card, and I was looking at that glimmer paper that was left, that pink glimmer paper, like that is too pretty to get rid of. So I took it, I trimmed around it, not very detailed, so it was pretty simple to do that, and created this card with it. So there are 10 different ideas for how to use these word die cuts. Now let me give you a couple of bonus ideas. Here is one. This is another blending practice I did, and let's see if I can remember. So first I blended inside the smaller die cut piece with pink. And next I actually laid that smaller die cut piece on, and I'll give you a tip here in a second for how to hold these in place. So I laid that on, and then I blended around that one. So you actually get 3 different colors depending on where it was, just the pink, just the gray, or the overlay. So that's kind of a fun way. I still need to turn this one into a card. And then one more idea that I do not have to actually show you, but I've seen this done and it has a really neat effect, is to cut maybe 4 or 5 of the same die cut and then layer them on top of each other. So just glue them together, and what you get is a really thick piece that makes a nice accent on your card with a lot of dimension. Okay, now I have a few tips I want to share with you for using these. Let's talk about this one first, for how can you hold these in place while you're blending. So the way to do that is to flip them over to the back side and use some of this multi-purpose glue on the back. Just put a little bit on all over. You do need enough that it's going to hold it in place. So you do need to try and get to the edges if possible. Now I didn't come all the way out on this piece, but I got at least those thicker areas. Set these aside and let them dry. When it dries, I just love this glue. I can't say how much I love this glue. When it dries, it's still sticky. So what you get is you can press this in place and it's not going to move because that glue is holding it in place. You do want to be careful because it can stick too tight and this can actually tear your project when you remove it. So what I like to do to make sure it's not too sticky is basically just stick it on my shirt, or you can touch it with your hands a few times to remove a little bit of that stick and make it removable. So that's one tip. Another tip is to save your templates. So I am going to store these in my case with my die set. So if I want to do blending again, I could pull these out and I don't even have to die cut. I can just pull them out, grab my blending brushes and start. Now, if you look at pieces like this and think that that's detailed and difficult to adhere to a project, let me give you a tip for that. And these are actually similar to our foam adhesive sheets, but they're just thin adhesive sheets and they turn any die cut, any piece into a sticker basically. So what you do is peel off one of these pieces that's the appropriate size. You put this on the back of your cardstock that you're going to die cut out. After you have put this on the back, you die cut that piece as normal with this on the back side. Then you have this paper backing that you can remove from your die cut. It basically turns it into a sticker and it is just makes it so easy to attach to your project. So thanks so much for watching. I hope this gives you some fun ways to use word dies on your projects. Like I said, you can find all kinds of information in the video description below. So thanks so much for being here. I hope you have a blessed day and I hope you'll be back again next time when I'll be here helping you to hand make with love.